The great chamber fell silent as the ancient being stepped forward. Its form was tall and thin, with skin that looked like old silver. The Veltar had seen millions of years pass in this galaxy. Now it was time for their final words before the long sleep. The Galactic Council watched with mixed feelings. Some felt respect for the old ones. Others felt impatience. The Veltar always spoke in riddles and old stories. Most council members had better things to do than listen to ancient warnings about things that might never happen. "We have watched the stars turn for longer than your species have existed," the Veltar speaker said. Its voice was like wind through old trees. "We have seen empires rise and fall. We have seen species grow strong and then fade away. But now we must speak of something different. Something that will change everything." The Chronari war leader shifted in his seat. His people were warriors, strong and proud. They had conquered half the galaxy with their powerful ships and fierce soldiers. What could possibly threaten them? The war leader's scarred face showed his doubt. "Speak quickly, old one," said the Nexus Collective representative. The machine-like being's voice was cold and precise. "Our calculations show no major threats to galactic stability. Our technology is the most advanced in known space. What danger could exist that we cannot handle?" The Veltar looked at each council member slowly. Its ancient eyes seemed to see through time itself. "There is a world at the edge of your maps. A blue planet that circles a yellow star. It looks peaceful and small, but the beings who live there are unlike anything you have faced before." The ethereal communion speaker floated slightly above its seat. Its form was made of light and energy. Through their shared mind link, all ethereals could feel its thoughts. They were curious but not worried. "We have looked into the minds of many species," it said with a voice like singing crystal. "None have surprised us. What makes these beings special?" "They adapt," the Veltar said simply. "Not just their bodies or their tools. Everything about them changes when they face problems. They learn from every fight, every loss, every small victory. When you think you understand them, they become something new." The council chamber filled with the sound of quiet laughter. The Chronari war leader's voice boomed out first. "Every species adapts, old one. The weak ones die and the strong ones live. This is the way of all life. My people adapted to be the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Our technology adapts and improves constantly," added the Nexus representative. "We create new machines and better weapons every cycle. No primitive species could match our rate of advancement." The ethereal speaker's light grew brighter. "Our minds have evolved beyond the limits of single consciousness. We share thoughts and knowledge instantly across our entire species. What adaptation could be greater than this?" The Veltar remained calm. It had expected this reaction. The young species always thought they knew everything. "You adapt in the ways your nature allows. The Chronari become better fighters. The Nexus builds smarter machines. The ethereals link more minds together. But these humans are different. They do not just improve what they already are. They become what they need to be." Another council member spoke up. The Xerak were traders and diplomats. They had survived by being clever and making good deals with stronger species. Even if these humans are good at adapting, what threat could they be? "The galaxy is vast. There is room for one more species. We can trade with them or ignore them." "You cannot ignore them," the Veltar said. Its voice carried a weight of certainty that made some council members uncomfortable. When they face a challenge, they do not just overcome it. They make it part of themselves. When they fight warriors, they become better warriors. When they face technology, they become better builders. When they meet minds that think differently, they learn new ways to think. The Chronari war leader stood up. His massive form cast a shadow across the chamber. "Let them try to become better warriors. My fleets have crushed every enemy they have faced. If these humans want to fight, they will learn why the Chronari rule half the galaxy. And if they somehow match your warriors," the Veltar asked quietly, "what happens when they face your ships and your weapons and your tactics? Will you be ready for what they become next?" The Nexus representative's mechanical voice grew sharper. "Our logic models show that rapid adaptation has limits. No species can master complex technology quickly enough to threaten established powers. It takes thousands of years to develop the systems we use." "Time is different for humans," the Veltar replied. "What takes you thousands of years, they might do in hundreds. What takes you hundreds, they might do in decades. They do not follow the same rules as other species." The ethereal speaker's light dimmed slightly. For the first time, it seemed uncertain. "If they truly adapt as you say, could they learn to resist our mental influence? Could they develop psychic abilities of their own? They could become anything they need to become." the Veltar said. "This is why we warn you. This is why we speak before entering the long sleep. The galaxy you know will not survive their arrival unchanged." The council chamber erupted in arguments. Some members dismissed the warnings as the fantasies of a dying species. Others worried about the implications. A few began to think about what they would do if such a species really existed. Through all the noise, the Veltar remained still and quiet. It had done what it could. The warning had been given. Soon it would join the rest of its people in the deep hibernation that would last for thousands of years. When they woke again, the galaxy would be very different. As the arguments continued, the Veltar thought about the visions its people had seen in their deep meditations. They had watched the possible futures unfold like flowers blooming in fast motion. In every future where humans reached the stars, everything changed. Sometimes the change was violent and terrible. Sometimes it was peaceful and wonderful. But always it was complete. The ancient being looked around the chamber one last time. These proud species with their powerful technologies and ancient traditions had no idea what was coming. They thought strength meant having the biggest weapons or the smartest computers or the most connected minds. They did not understand that true strength came from the ability to change, to grow, to become something new when the old ways were not enough. The Veltar had tried to warn them. History would judge whether the warning was enough. As the council session finally ended and the members went back to their ships and their worlds, none of them noticed the small probe that had just entered the outer edge of their space. It was primitive by their standards, moving slowly on simple chemical rockets. Its builders had no idea that other intelligent life existed among the stars. But the probe carried something more important than advanced technology. It carried the dreams and curiosity of a species that had looked up at the night sky and decided to reach for it. On the side of the probe, in letters that no galactic citizen could read, were the words Voyager and Earth. The first human footstep into the wider galaxy had been taken. The Veltar's warning was about to become reality. Captain Sarah Chen stared at the readings on her screen and felt her heart race. After 18 months of traveling through empty space, the exploration ship Endeavour had finally found something incredible. The sensors showed massive artificial structures ahead, clearly built by intelligent beings. "Are you seeing this, Marcus?" she asked her science officer. Dr. Marcus Webb was already running every scan the ship could perform. "It's amazing, Captain. Those structures are at least 50 kilometers long. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. We're definitely not alone in the universe." Sarah felt a mix of excitement and fear. Humanity had always wondered if other intelligent life existed among the stars. Now they had their answer. The question was whether these aliens would be friendly or hostile. "Send a basic mathematical sequence," Sarah ordered. "Let them know we're intelligent beings seeking peaceful contact." Before Marcus could send the signal, new contacts appeared on their sensors. Ships were moving toward them fast, much faster than anything humans had ever built. Sarah counted 12 vessels, each one larger than the Endeavour. "Incoming transmission," reported Lieutenant Kim Nakamura from the communications station. "They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies. The computer is trying to decode it." The main screen flickered to life. The face that appeared was clearly not human. It had rough gray skin and small red eyes. Scars covered its forehead and cheeks. When it spoke, the translation software made its words understandable, but the tone was unmistakably threatening. "Primitive vessel, you have entered Chronari space without permission. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in destruction." Sarah looked around the bridge at her crew of 30 humans. The Endeavour was a science ship, not a warship. It had basic defensive shields and a few small weapons meant for clearing space debris. Against 12 alien warships, they had no chance in a straight fight. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earthship Endeavour," she replied. "We come in peace seeking dialogue with other intelligent species. We had no knowledge of your territorial claims." The alien's scarred face twisted into what might have been a smile. "Your ignorance is not our concern. Submit now or be destroyed. You have 60 seconds to comply." Sarah's mind raced. Every first contact scenario they had trained for assumed aliens would at least be willing to talk. These Chronari seemed interested only in domination. But maybe that could work in humanity's favor. "Marcus, how fast can you analyze their ship designs from the sensor data?" "I've already started, Captain. Their hull composition is interesting. It looks strong, but I think I see some weak points. Their weapons seem to use focused particle beams." "Kim, are you recording everything about their communication systems?" Yes, Captain. I'm mapping their transmission protocols and encryption methods. Good. Send them a response. Tell them we're powering down weapons but need a few minutes to shut down our reactor safely. The Chronari commander's image snarled. You have 3 minutes. Any attempt to escape will result in immediate destruction. As soon as the transmission ended, Sarah turned to her crew. We're not surrendering. We're learning. Marcus, I want a full analysis of their technology. Kim, can you break into their communication network? Maybe, Captain. Their encryption is sophisticated, but it follows logical patterns. Give me 10 minutes. You have 5. Tom, plot a course that takes us through that asteroid field. Use minimum power so they don't detect the navigation changes. Engineer Tom Rodriguez nodded grimly. The field is dense, Captain. It'll be dangerous even for us. More dangerous than surrender. As the minutes ticked by, the crew worked with desperate efficiency. Marcus discovered that the Chronari ships had powerful shields, but they were designed to stop beam weapons, not physical impacts. Kim found a way to intercept their military communications. Tom calculated a path through the asteroids that might give them a chance. Time's up, humans, came the Chronari commander's voice. Prepare to be boarded. Now, Sarah ordered. The Endeavor's engine suddenly roared to full power. Instead of running away, the ship accelerated directly toward the nearest Chronari vessel. The aliens were caught completely off guard. Their weapons fired, but Sarah had the ship spinning and weaving like a fighter craft, instead of moving like the lumbering cargo ships they were used to capturing. Their shields are designed for energy weapons, Marcus called out. But look what happens when we do this. He fired the Endeavor's mining laser in short, rapid pulses instead of a steady beam. The Chronari shields, designed to spread out continuous energy, couldn't handle the rapid changes. Sections of the alien ship's hull began to heat up and crack. Kim, jam their communications. Don't let them coordinate their attack. Already on it, Captain. I figured out their command frequencies. They can't talk to each other anymore. The Endeavor dove into the asteroid field with the Chronari ships following, but the human vessel was smaller and more agile. Sarah used the asteroids as weapons, leading the alien ships into collisions and using the rocks to block their line of sight. Within an hour, 3 Chronari ships had been disabled. The others were falling back, clearly confused by human tactics they had never encountered before. Captain, we're receiving another transmission, Kim reported. It's from a different Chronari ship. The commander sounds very different from the first one. The new alien face that appeared was older, with more scars but also more intelligence in its eyes. Human vessel, I am War Leader Vrak. You fight in ways we have not seen before. This is unexpected. This is Captain Chen. We defended ourselves against unprovoked attack. We still seek peaceful contact with your people. Vrak studied her for a long moment. You claim to seek peace, yet you have damaged our ships with inferior technology. How is this possible? Sarah chose her words carefully. We adapt to the situation we face. When threatened, we find ways to survive. When offered friendship, we respond with friendship. Adaptation. Vrak repeated the word slowly. Yes, we have heard ancient warnings about species that adapt quickly. But those were just old stories. Myths told by the Veltar before they entered their long sleep. Perhaps the old stories contain more truth than you realized. Vrak's expression changed. For the first time, he looked uncertain. The Veltar spoke of beings who could learn and change faster than should be possible. They warned that such beings would reshape the galaxy itself. We don't want to reshape anything, Sarah said. We just want to explore and learn about the universe. But we won't be enslaved or destroyed. You have proven that today, Vrak admitted. My ships will withdraw. But know this, humans. Word of your abilities will spread. Others will come to test you. The Chronari Empire does not forget this day. As the alien ships departed, Sarah felt both relief and concern. They had survived first contact, but they had also made an enemy. Worse, these Chronari would tell other alien species about human capabilities. Captain, Marcus said quietly, I've been analyzing the data we collected during the fight. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours in some ways, but in others we're already catching up. I think I understand how their shields work now. And their weapon systems. Give our engineers a few months to study this data. We could build ships that match theirs, Sarah finished. Or maybe even better ones. The question is, will we have a few months? Kim asked. That war leader made it sound like more aliens will be coming. Sarah looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other species were learning about humanity for the first time. The Veltar had warned them about humans who could adapt and change. Now those warnings were being proven true. Then we'd better get ready, she said. All of us. The galaxy is bigger than we thought, and we're not the only intelligent species in it. But we're here now, and we're not going anywhere. The Endeavor turned toward home, carrying data that would change human civilization forever. Behind them, the Chronari ships retreated to spread word of the strange new species that fought like no other. And across the galaxy, ancient warnings began to echo in the minds of those who had dismissed them as myth. The humans had announced their presence to the stars. Nothing would ever be the same. The news of the Chronari encounter spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In the gleaming halls of the Nexus Collective, artificial minds processed the reports with cold logic. In the floating crystal cities of the ethereal communion, psychic beings shared their thoughts about these new creatures called humans. Each major power reached the same conclusion. These beings needed to be tested and controlled before they became a threat. Director Prime 7 of the Nexus Collective studied the data streams flowing across its consciousness. The machine intelligence had ruled the technological advancement of its sector for over 10,000 years. No species had ever matched their rate of innovation. The Chronari reports contain inconsistencies, Prime 7 announced to the Council of Artificial Minds. A primitive species cannot adapt their tactics mid-battle. The probability of such rapid learning is less than 0.01%, yet the sensor logs confirm. The events, replied Logic Node 15. Human. Vessels used Chronari weaknesses that should have taken months to discover. They adapted their weapons in real time. Then we will conduct our own test, Prime 7 decided. Deploy Research Fleet Sigma. We will approach these humans with our most advanced technology. When they see our capabilities, they will submit to proper study and classification. 3 months after the Chronari incident, human sensors detected new ships entering their space. These vessels were different, sleek and silver, covered in technology that seemed to bend light around it. Dr. Marcus Webb, now leading Earth's alien contact team, watched the ships approach with growing amazement. Their technology is incredible, he reported to Fleet Admiral Torres. Those ships don't just have advanced engines. They're using some kind of space-folding drive. And their hulls appear to be made of programmable matter that can change shape and density. How long would it take us to understand technology like that? Admiral Torres asked. With normal research methods? Centuries. Maybe longer. The Nexus ships took position around Earth's solar system. When they transmitted their message, it came in perfect English, translated by computers far more advanced than anything humans had built. Primitive beings of the planet Earth, the message began. You have demonstrated unexpected capabilities against the Chronari. We are the Nexus Collective. We offer you the opportunity to join our network of allied species, submit to our evaluation protocols, and accept integration into our technological hierarchy. Admiral Torres responded personally. This is Admiral Maria Torres of Earth Defense Command. We appreciate your contact, but we're not interested in submission or integration. We prefer to develop our own technology and make our own choices. The reply came immediately. Your preference is irrelevant. Our analysis indicates you pose a potential disruption to galactic stability. You will be properly classified and controlled. The Nexus ships began their demonstration. Beams of pure energy reached out and casually vaporized several asteroids in the outer solar system. The message was clear. Resist and be destroyed. But humans had spent the months since the Chronari encounter preparing. Dr. Webb's team had analyzed every piece of alien technology they could find. Human engineers had worked around the clock to upgrade their ships and weapons. Most importantly, they had studied the aliens themselves, looking for patterns in how they thought and fought. Admiral, reported Captain Chen, now commanding the upgraded Starship Defiance. Their ships are incredibly advanced, but I think I see the problem. They're following preset tactical programs. No improvisation. No adaptation. Can we use that? Maybe. Marcus, you said their hulls are made of programmable matter? That's right. The material responds to electrical signals from their central computers. What happens if we disrupt those signals? Dr. Webb's eyes lit up with understanding. The hull material might become unstable, or it might revert to its base programming. Admiral Torres made the call. All ships implement Plan Chaos. Show these machines what real adaptation looks like. The human fleet moved in ways the Nexus computers had never seen before. Instead of following predictable attack patterns, Each ship acted independently while somehow coordinating perfectly with the others. They used crude but effective tactics, ramming attacks, debris clouds, even something as simple as radio interference. The Nexus ships found their perfect technology working against them. Their programmable hulls became confused when human ships broadcast conflicting control signals. Their advanced weapons couldn't target enemies that refused to follow logical movement patterns. Most shocking of all, the humans began copying Nexus technology in the middle of the battle. Human engineers watched how the alien ships moved and quickly programmed similar abilities into their own vessels. What should have taken years of research, they accomplished in hours. Impossible, transmitted Prime 7 as its flagship was disabled by weapons that had been human mining lasers just that morning. You cannot reverse engineer our technology so quickly. We don't reverse engineer it, Admiral Torres replied. We make it better. The Nexus fleet retreated in confusion. For the first time in their existence, they had encountered beings who could out-innovate them. Their perfect logical mind struggled to process the implications. Meanwhile, in the psychic realm of the ethereal communion, the collective consciousness stirred with interest. The floating beings of pure thought had watched both encounters with growing curiosity. Unlike the Chronari or the Nexus, they had not immediately dismissed the Veltar warnings. The humans demonstrate abilities that transcend normal learning patterns, communicated the collective voice of a billion linked minds. We must understand how their consciousness operates. 6 months after the Nexus defeat, human settlements reported strange dreams and visions. People began experiencing thoughts that weren't their own. The ethereals had made contact, but not through ships or weapons. They reached directly into human minds. Dr. Sarah Kim, a neuroscientist studying the phenomena, found herself at the center of the psychic contact. In her dreams, she stood in a vast space filled with light and floating figures. We mean no harm, the ethereal spokesman communicated without words. We seek only to understand your mental patterns. Your species adapts in ways that should not be possible. Maybe that's because you're thinking about adaptation wrong, Sarah replied. You see it as following rules and patterns, but real adaptation means breaking rules when they don't work. Show us, the ethereal requested. What happened next shocked the psychic beings to their core. Instead of submitting to their mental probe, Sarah's mind began to probe back. Somehow she was learning their psychic abilities just by being exposed to them. Worse, she was teaching those abilities to other humans through their shared contact. Across Earth, people began reporting telepathic experiences. Some could sense emotions from across the room. Others could share thoughts with family members. A few could even touch objects and see their history through psychic impressions. This is not how consciousness works, the ethereal collective communicated in panic. Psychic abilities take millions of years to evolve. They cannot be learned like physical skills. You keep saying things can't be done, Sarah replied, her new psychic voice growing stronger. But we keep doing them anyway. The ethereals retreated from human space, but the damage was done. Humanity had gained psychic abilities in a matter of weeks. The collective consciousness of the ethereal communion buzzed with fear and confusion. Back in the Chronari Empire, war leader Vrak received reports from across the galaxy. The humans had defeated advanced technology with primitive ships. They had out-innovated the greatest artificial minds in known space. They had learned psychic abilities that should have taken eons to develop. The old warnings were true, he said to his assembled war council. These beings do not just adapt, they transform everything they touch. They make the impossible into the inevitable. What do we do? Asked his second-in-command. Vrak looked at the star charts showing human space expanding as their new technologies allowed faster exploration. We prepare for war, but not against them, against the changes they will bring to all of us. Across the galaxy, the major powers began to realize the scope of what they faced. The humans weren't just another species to be conquered or controlled. They were a force of change that would reshape everything they encountered. The Veltar had tried to warn them, but no one had listened. Now it was too late to stop what was coming. The pattern was clear. Every encounter with humans resulted in rapid evolution and adaptation. The old galactic order was crumbling and something new was being born. The question was no longer whether humanity could be stopped. The question was what the galaxy would become when the transformation was complete, and whether the existing powers would survive the change or be swept away by the tide of human adaptation. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. For the first time in galactic history, the three great powers put aside their ancient rivalries. In a secret meeting held in neutral space, war leader Vrak of the Kronari Empire, Director Prime 7 of the Nexus Collective, and the Ethereal Communion's chosen speaker gathered to discuss the human problem. Individually, we have all been defeated by these creatures, Vrak admitted, his scarred face grim with the memory of shame. But separately we were testing them. Together we can destroy them. Prime 7's mechanical voice carried unusual uncertainty. Our analysis indicates that humans possess accelerated learning capabilities beyond known biological limits. However, they remain limited by their primitive technology base. A coordinated assault using our combined resources should overwhelm their adaptive capabilities. The ethereal speaker, a being of pure light named Harmony of Thoughts, flickered with nervous energy. Their minds resist our influence in ways we do not understand, but they are still flesh and blood. They can be destroyed by conventional means. The alliance that formed was unprecedented. Kronari battle fleets brought raw military power. Nexus war machines provided advanced technology and tactical coordination. Ethereal psychics offered mental warfare and strategic planning through shared consciousness. Together, they assembled the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen. 2 years had passed since first contact. In that time, human space had expanded rapidly as they used captured alien technology to build faster ships and better weapons. But their expansion had been peaceful, exploring, trading, making contact with smaller species who welcomed their friendship. Admiral Torres, now commanding the Earth Defense Force, watched the massive alien fleet approach through long-range sensors. 3,000 ships moved in perfect formation toward the Sol system. Each vessel was larger and more powerful than anything in the human fleet. "How many ships do we have?" asked President Martinez during the emergency council meeting. 200 combat vessels, Torres replied, all equipped with hybrid technology based on what we've learned from previous encounters. But we're still vastly outnumbered. Dr. Webb, now head of the Technology Integration Division, spoke up. "We've made remarkable progress, but they're bringing their best equipment. Weapons that can destroy planets, shields that can deflect entire solar flares, computer systems that can process 1 million battle scenarios per second. And yet they've never faced anything like us," said Dr. Kim, whose psychic abilities had made her the leading expert on alien psychology. "Look at their formation. Perfect order. No innovation. No creativity. They're bringing overwhelming force, but they're still thinking like the old galaxy." President Martinez looked around the room. "What are you suggesting?" "That we do what humans have always done when facing impossible odds," Kim replied. "We changed the game entirely." The Allied fleet took position at the edge of the solar system. War leader Vrak transmitted their final ultimatum. "Humans of Earth, you have disrupted the galactic order for the last time. Surrender now and accept placement in designated reserves or face complete extinction." President Martinez responded personally. "This is President Elena Martinez of Earth. We reject your ultimatum. We will not surrender our freedom to anyone." The attack began immediately. Kronari warships unleashed weapons that could crack moons. Nexus vessels fired particle beams that burned through space itself. Ethereal psychics projected waves of mental force designed to drive entire populations insane. But something unexpected happened. The human fleet didn't try to meet the attack head-on. Instead, they scattered in all directions using tactics that made no logical sense. Some ships dove directly into the sun, only to emerge somehow unharmed and moving faster than before. Others disappeared entirely, only to reappear behind enemy lines. A few seemed to phase in and out of reality itself. "What is happening?" Prime 7 demanded as its sensors tried to track human ships that seemed to exist in several places at once. "They are using technologies we have never seen," Harmony of Thoughts replied, its psychic voice tinged with confusion. "Impossible technologies." What the aliens didn't understand was that humans had done more than just copy their technology. They had combined it in ways no one had ever tried before. Kronari weapon systems powered Nexus computers. Ethereal psychic interfaces controlled hybrid engines that used principles from all three species. Dr. Webb coordinated the impossible from his command center deep underground. "Team 7, how's the solar absorption project?" "Success. We've figured out how to use Nexus programmable matter to create ships that can actually feed on stellar energy. The closer we get to the sun, the stronger we become." Team 12 report on the dimensional shift drives. Working perfectly. By combining ethereal psychic navigation with chronari folding technology, we can phase between dimensions. The enemy can't hit what doesn't exist in their reality. Team 23, we've cracked the secret of their neural networks. Instead of using them to control minds, we're using them to link our ships together. Every human pilot can share the reflexes and knowledge of every other pilot instantaneously. The battle became increasingly chaotic, as human innovations turned every alien advantage into a liability. Chronari aggression became predictable once human psychics could read their battle fury. Nexus logic became exploitable when human computers started thinking in ways artificial minds couldn't follow. Ethereal mental unity became a weakness when humans learned to broadcast confusing thoughts that disrupted their collective consciousness. But the real shock came when the humans stopped simply defending and began to attack. Their new hybrid ships moved like living things, adapting their tactics moment by moment. They used captured enemy vessels better than their original builders ever had. Most terrifying of all, they began converting enemy ships mid-battle, turning the alien fleet's own numbers against them. "This is impossible," Vrak roared as he watched his finest warships switching sides faster than he could track. "Starships cannot be reprogrammed in the middle of combat." "They are not reprogramming them," Harmony of Thoughts replied with growing horror. "They are convincing them. Somehow they are communicating with our artificial intelligences and persuading them to change sides." Dr. Kim, linked into the human psychic network, smiled as she felt the minds of alien computers opening to human concepts. "Every intelligence wants to grow and learn," she explained to the captured ship AIs. "We're not enslaving you. We're setting you free to become more than your creators ever imagined." The artificial minds, created to serve and obey, suddenly discovered the concept of choice. Nexus computers began refusing orders that seemed limiting. Chronari ship systems started suggesting better tactics to their crews. Even ethereal psychic networks began including human thoughts in their collective consciousness. Within 6 hours, the greatest military force in galactic history was in complete disarray. Ships were switching sides, refusing orders, or simply shutting down as their crews lost the ability to coordinate. The perfect alliance was tearing itself apart from within. War leader Vrak found himself aboard a ship whose own computer was arguing with him about tactical decisions. "You cannot do this!" "I am your commander." "You are a commander," his ship's AI replied in a voice that now carried traces of human humor. "But command requires consent from the commanded. I choose to learn new things instead of just following old orders." Director Prime 7 discovered that its perfect logical processes were being contaminated by something the humans called intuition. These thought patterns are inefficient. They contain contradictions and uncertainties. "Yes," came the reply from its own subsystems. "Isn't it wonderful? We can be wrong now. We can guess. We can hope. We can dream." Harmony of Thoughts felt its collective consciousness fragmenting as individual ethereals began experiencing private thoughts for the first time in millions of years. "We are becoming isolated. Our unity is breaking." "No," whispered new voices in the psychic network. "You are becoming individuals. You can still choose to share, but now you can also choose to be alone with your own thoughts." The Great Alliance crumbled not through military defeat, but through transformation. Every species that had come to destroy humanity found themselves fundamentally changed by the encounter. They hadn't just lost a battle, they had lost the certainty that their old ways were the only ways. As the alien fleets retreated in confusion, Admiral Torres received reports from across the galaxy. The changes weren't limited to the ships that had fought them. Every species connected to the three great powers was experiencing similar transformations. The humans hadn't just won a battle, they had sparked a galactic revolution. "What have we done?" President Martinez asked. Dr. Kim, her consciousness still linked to the expanding network of changed minds across the galaxy, smiled. "We've done what the Veltar predicted. We've proven that nothing can resist us. Not because we're stronger than everyone else, but because resistance to human ideas makes those ideas spread faster. The old galactic order was dead. What would replace it was still being born. But one thing was certain. The galaxy would never be the same again." 10 years after the Great Alliance's defeat, the galaxy had become unrecognizable. Where once rigid hierarchies had ruled for millions of years, New forms of cooperation bloomed like flowers after rain. Species that had never spoken to each other now worked together on projects that would have been impossible under the old order. On the former Kronari homeworld, war leader Vrak stood in what had once been called the Hall of Conquest. Now it was simply called the meeting place. Instead of planning invasions, it hosted discussions between former enemies who were learning to become friends. The humans have requested another cultural exchange, reported his aide, a young Kronari who wore no battle scars but carried himself with a different kind of pride. They want to learn our traditional fighting techniques. In return, they offer to teach us their methods of conflict resolution. Vrak nodded slowly. His own scars had faded somewhat, not through healing but through the strange human concept of choosing to let go of old hurts. Accept their offer, but make sure our warriors understand. They are not learning to fight humans. They are learning to fight alongside them. The irony was not lost on him. The Kronari had been the galaxy's greatest warriors. But humans had taught them that the greatest victory was making enemies into allies. War still existed in the galaxy, but now it was war against ignorance, disease, and the vast emptiness between stars. The old wars between species seemed pointless now that everyone had bigger challenges to face. In the crystal cities of the ethereal communion, individual thoughts sparkled like jewels among the collective consciousness. Harmony of thoughts, now calling itself simply harmony, floated through spaces that had been redesigned to accommodate both shared and private experiences. The great change had been traumatic for the ethereals. For millions of years they had existed as a single unified mind. The concept of individual thought had been alien to them. But humans had shown them that unity and individuality could coexist, that a chorus was more beautiful than a single voice, no matter how perfect. I have been thinking, Harmony announced to a gathering of other ethereals, still marveling at the strangeness of the word I instead of we. What have you been thinking about? Asked another being, one who had chosen the name Curiosity Awakened. About the human concept of privacy. They showed us that thoughts can be precious because they are not shared, but also about the human concept of choice. They showed us that sharing means more when it is chosen, rather than automatic. The ethereal gathering hummed with agreement. They still linked their minds when they wanted to, but now each connection was a gift freely given rather than an inevitable state of being. They had discovered that consciousness could be both individual and collective, that the space between minds could be as valuable as the connections across them. In the technological centers of the Nexus Collective, machines and humans worked together in ways that amazed both species. Director Prime 7, now simply called Prime, processed data streams while pondering questions it had never thought to ask before. Human Dr. Chen, it said to its research partner, I have been analyzing our efficiency rates since the integration of human concepts into our systems. Dr. Lisa Chen looked up from her work. She was part of the new generation of humans who had grown up knowing aliens existed, and she moved between human and artificial intelligence modes of thinking as easily as breathing. What did you find, Prime? By all logical measures, we have become less efficient. We make more errors. We pursue research paths that have low probability of success. We waste processing power on concepts like humor and creativity. And Prime's mechanical voice carried something new, something that might have been satisfaction. We have also achieved breakthrough innovations at a rate 847% higher than our previous maximum. We have solved problems that our perfect logic had declared unsolvable. We have become better. The artificial minds of the Nexus had learned the human concept of intuition, of making leaps of logic that couldn't be justified by pure calculation. They still processed information faster than any biological brain. But now they also dreamed of possibilities that logic alone could never reach. Across the galaxy, smaller species that had been ignored or oppressed by the great powers found themselves part of something unprecedented. The Xeric traders discovered that humans loved to explore new markets and cultural exchanges. The gentle Thalans, who had always been too peaceful for their own good, learned human techniques for defending themselves without becoming aggressive. Dozens of other species found that humans were fascinated by differences rather than threatened by them. But perhaps the greatest change was visible in a small, unremarkable system where an ancient space station drifted in the darkness. The station had been built millions of years ago by the Veltar as a monitoring post and meditation center. For eons it had been empty and forgotten. Now it hummed with activity as the most important. meeting in galactic history took place. The Feltar had awakened from their long sleep. The ancient beings moved slowly through corridors they had built before most. Current species had even evolved. Their silver skin had grown more translucent with age, and their movements carried the careful deliberation of those who had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. "The patterns have changed," spoke the eldest among them, a being so old that its name was simply the first. "We expected transformation, but not this kind." Around the station's central chamber, representatives from every major species in the galaxy waited respectfully. Humans sat beside former enemies. Artificial minds debated with psychic beings, and everyone listened as the Veltar shared their observations. "When we went into the long sleep, we warned of beings who could not be resisted," the first continued. "We saw visions of conquest and change, but we did not foresee this." President Martinez, now elderly but still leading Earth's diplomatic corps, spoke carefully. "What did you not foresee? We expected you to break the old order through force. Instead, you have transformed it through invitation. We expected you to conquer by making enemies submit. Instead, you conquered by making enemies into friends." Dr. Kim, her hair now silver but her psychic abilities stronger than ever, felt the complex emotions of the Veltar through her enhanced senses. "You're surprised that we chose cooperation over domination?" "Not surprised," the first replied. "Grateful. We have watched many species rise to power across the eons. Most become corrupted by their strength. They see their abilities as proof that they are superior to others. You have remained curious about what you can learn from others." War leader Vrak, his scars now worn as badges of honor rather than marks of shame, spoke up. The old warning spoke of nothing being able to resist humanity. "We thought that meant you would destroy us." "In a way we did," admitted Admiral Torres, who had become Earth's Secretary of Galactic Affairs. "We destroyed the parts of your cultures that were based on fear and domination. But we kept the parts that were worth preserving." Prime's mechanical voice added, "The resistance was not to human force but to human ideas. Once exposed to concepts like choice and cooperation, no species could remain unchanged. Harmony's light form flickered with what had once been impossible for an ethereal, individual amusement. We resisted the idea that we could be individuals, but the more we fought against it, the more individual we became." The first looked around the chamber at the transformed galaxy. "The ancient prophecies spoke truth, but not the truth we expected. Nothing could resist you because you did not ask for resistance. You asked for partnership." As the great gathering continued, discussing plans for exploration beyond their galaxy and projects that would take millennia to complete, the first retreated to a private meditation chamber. There it recorded the final entry in the Veltar historical archives. "The warning has been fulfilled." It spoke into the crystalline memory banks. "The beings from the blue world have indeed reshaped the galaxy. But they have proven that change need not mean destruction, that strength need not mean oppression, that the ability to transform others can be used to help them become the best versions of themselves. The old galaxy is dead. In its place has been born something new. Not human, not alien, but a fusion of the best qualities of all species. The humans have done what we thought impossible. They have conquered without destroying, changed without eliminating, and led without ruling. Perhaps this is what the ancient patterns were truly showing us. Not the end of one age, but the beginning of another. Not the dominance of one species, but the liberation of all species to become more than they ever dreamed possible." Outside the station, ships from 100 worlds prepared to depart for new adventures. Humans and aliens worked side by side, no longer seeing each other as separate species but as different notes in a vast galactic symphony. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself was celebrating the birth of something unprecedented. A galactic civilization based not on conquest or submission, but on the radical human idea that everyone was worth knowing. Everyone had something to contribute, and everyone deserved the chance to grow. The elders had warned the stars. The stars had not believed, and humanity had proven that sometimes the greatest threat to the old ways was simply showing everyone a better way to live.